I think it was about 15 years ago I first bought a little looping pedal, and about 8 years after that I gave it away to somebody because I hadn't actually even plugged it in yet. Then a few years later I bought an even bigger one with greater ambitions, and I did plug it in, and I remember playing with it for about an hour or two and thinking, whoa, this is complicated. The manual was like War and Peace, and I just couldn't get on with it at all. But I've seen quite a few artists over the years looping, and because I'm an improviser, I just thought it could be really fun. It could be something that I'd really enjoy doing, but there's just a very steep learning curve. And I think it's like a lot of these things with technology, that at the beginning you just feel like a baby who can't walk yet, and then actually it comes quite quickly, but you need to put in the hours. I've been here, it was one of the main things that I was wanting to do during this residency, was to get comfortable with looping, or to start off that process at least. People who've done it for many years say it does take many years to get to be a real master, but it's been a great opportunity to start off. And just to see musically what I could sort of get out of it. And I will play a piece now, which is what I would describe as a sort of a fairly standard kind of looping piece, in that you can really feel the sort of the square edges of things stopping and starting and going round and round and round and stuff like that, which is fun. I don't know if I would play this in a concert, but it's really good practice. It's practice for getting to know the actual pedal board. It's good practice rhythmically. One of the things I found out, I had a really interesting Skype with a German cellist called Stefan Schrader, who plays in the Deutsche Kammerphilharmonie, which is one of the greatest chamber orchestras in the world. And I was saying to him, I can't believe how bad my rhythm is. And he said, yeah, no, exactly. And he said, cellists are the worst. He says German cellists are the worst. I didn't argue with that. But I think as cellists, maybe string players in general, we're always trying so hard to be expressive. And obviously one of the main tools of expression in classical music is playing around with a beat. In jazz, it all happens in a very different way, but classically we play around with the beat a huge amount. So to try and get that out of my system and to be much more rhythmic, I've been practicing that every day quite a lot, and I've just been horrified sometimes at just how wayward I am, just putting beats in the right place. Anyway, I'll just play you this as a sort of example. This is kind of, this is good looping practice, I think, for me. That's how I would describe it. fun, and it's a great way to practice. It's a great way to get creative ideas going. And Cosmo Sheldrake, who's an amazing musician, good friend of mine, who's been helping me starting off with looping. Cosmo did a class, I think, I don't know when or where it was, but I think with Bobby McFerrin and one of Bobby's sort of sing circle folks. And they came up with a really good sort of scheme of starting improvisations with a kind of motoric idea, like that's where I got this from, a motoric idea, then a balancing idea, then a counterpoint idea, then a harmonized version, and then percussion, which was the bit I did in the mic vocally, and then bass, and then you do a solo. And that scheme just really works. It's very musical, it's very intelligent. And so I've been using that scheme just to create lots and lots of different improvisations. But I enjoy playing that piece very much. It's incredible, just with a little sort of orchestra of cellos, just like that, straight there. And also the other thing, actually this is a very important thing, through the looper, the quality of your sound is only the quality of that, £300 looping pedal board, and you've got this amazing old Italian cello. Whereas if I go through an Ableton with an Ableton looper, then I can use all the sound quality from that and get it sounding like a really, really nice cello. That's the first time I've ever looped for anybody. For a musician to be here, I've been playing Britain's music for 35 years or something. It's really incredible, and he was a complete genius. But Aldeburgh has always had that kind of magical thing for me since I was a kid. And then, of course, I think from my 20s I started coming to play here with all sorts of different ensembles, with Ollie Nasson a lot, London Sinfonietta. So Aldeburgh has always been a very special place. And then in the centenary year of Britain's birth in 2013, in this very room in the library, I did the last of 100 events all around the country. I think it was 65 concerts and 35 educational events. And the very last one was here on December the 4th, which was the day that Britain died as well. And it was just amazing to be here for all the completely obvious reasons. It was the end of a really, really arduous year of touring and performing and stuff. And Britain is extraordinary. I got a lovely tip from Penny the gardener, who's an absolute gem. She said, look round the gardens in the early evening where everyone's gone. So actually I had several evenings around about 6 or 7 o'clock, beautiful sunny evenings where I just really wander around the garden. And one of the things that struck me was just the extent of the infrastructure here. It's unbelievable. The archive, the library, and all the different cottages, and the house in such beautiful preservation. And I wouldn't imagine there's any composer anywhere who's A, such a great composer, but B, who left such a well-organised legacy. And Britain was so organised, like even these little plaques, like you can say that they found his housekeeper's purchase notes of when he bought 65 fruit trees in 1958 from what's this market and stuff like that. Unbelievable. Basically his whole life seems to have been archived in perfect detail. So you do get this amazing sense of Britain. And of course, especially around the time of my tour in 2013, I read thousands of Britain biographies and everything. And Colin Matthews is an old friend of mine. And Colin, of course, was Britain's amanuensis in his dying days while he was finishing his last works. And Colin's talked about his time here with Britain. So I think for most English musicians, Britain's a really big figure for all the obvious reasons. And his impact on the whole area and what he left, the legacy at Snape as well, it's really very, very extraordinary. So that's felt like a real privilege, a very humbling privilege and slightly terrifying at times, sitting there writing your melodies and glancing over at the Red House. But then also little things like I went down to post a couple of letters, and there's that little post box down on whatever that road is, and I guess that's where Britain posted his letters too, and that's cool. I liked that. That's just this feeling of this artistic musical legacy here. It was very special. So that's the sort of sound world I was just looking into. Most of the 17 days has been learning, actually, and I've still got these 2 lessons sort of tided over from yesterday and the day before, which I'll do next week. But it was actually really, really nice. Yesterday, for the first day, I actually got a little bit of fluency just on all this stuff, recording, playing back, doing it. This is starting to feel actually enjoyable. It was one of the first times I had a session where I just felt, I'm actually really making music now with the computer. Whereas before that, it was, oh God, I don't know what this term means. What does that mean? Check another video, look back at this, call somebody, really stop and start all the time. But yeah, that was really, really nice to have got there. I've also been doing a couple of hours practice a day. I've got my first solo recital since lockdown coming up in a few weeks' time with Beethoven, so I've had long work days, sort of 11 hour work days or something, getting up at 5:30 every morning and seeing the birds and everything. But that's been the extraordinary luxury of being here, is having had the time to just learn with no other agenda except just to learn stuff. What an incredible luxury that's been.